All right,
Yeah.
welcome to Tech Translated. We'll have the middle person do the intro. How about that?
That sounds good.
Whoever sit in the middle. Tech Translated. My name is Jay Lepore with CompuMatter, and I'm the owner of the store. We have been in business in Anacortes, Washington for 20 years. In that period of time, we have seen tens of probably in excess of 20,000 customers that have come through this door. We've seen it all, and we want to share the knowledge that we've gleaned over those years and over those many thousands of customers with you. If you've got questions, be sure to ask them. And let's now introduce Douglas.
Douglas from CompuMatter. I'm the manager down here and look forward to helping you with your tech issues. Again, you can chat anything in the chat and we will go ahead and just go through whatever subjects people find interesting in the tech world.
And I'm Auren. I do the on-sites here as well as repairs and one-on-one trainings and tutorial videos on our channel.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we all have training down here, so if you've got questions, give us a call. Our number's in the top right corner. We'll display that from time to time. All right, first subject of the day.
So my question is, how do I know if my PC supports Windows 11?
Okay, yeah, there's the TPM chip is probably the biggest one. You can type into your settings, TPM or security, and for Windows 10, I don't know if that setting is in there for the TPM. They might have to boot up to BIOS, which is going to be different for everybody.
That's true.
So the question is, how do you know whether your computer supports Windows 11?
And it'll actually tell you that it's not supported, and sometimes it can be, because there is a switch that's inside the BIOS. If you're not familiar with the BIOS, it's basically the operating system underneath the operating system. So before it boots into Windows, it's made by the motherboard manufacturer for the computer, and it's where all the settings are before you get into Windows. So booting up into BIOS is a little complicated to just go off for all computers, but you can look up your computer model and figure out how to get into BIOS when you turn it on, and there will be features in there for turning on your TPM, and the TPM is a trusted platform module, and that'll be inherently what allows you to get to Windows 11 on most of them.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't Windows tell you that you're not able to upgrade, so you know
so
that
it'll
already?
tell you that, but then if you go into BIOS and flick that switch, then it'll tell you you can handle it. Yep. So there's a lot of cases where it says you can't, and you go into BIOS and turn that TPM on, and then it says you're good.
Okay, so look online for something that says BIOS to see where you get into your, because every computer might be F10 or F12 or something like that when you boot your computer up, and hunt around for something that says TPM.
Sometimes it says FTPM, sometimes it just says security. So
Secure
unfortunately,
chip.
we went through all the complicated stuff first. What you can do is go and look up your CPU. And your CPU on your machine is right-click on the Start menu and go to System. It'll tell you what your CPU is, and then you can look up if that CPU is compatible with Windows 11. That'll be the easier way to go.
Right.
I would also say, probably based on experience, a good rule of thumb is if you have an Intel processor, if your CPU is older than an 8th generation processor, most of the time it's not going to be supported, but there are some other types out there that you might want to check on the list, like the Celerons, and some of those are actually supported. And then AMD, you can also go, like he said, to the website and see which ones are on the list for supported processors.
Okay. I have, I'm not necessarily recommending that you do this. You're going to have to make your own decision, but I've actually hacked my registry to turn that feature off. So basically Windows no longer detects whether you have TPM and allows you to upgrade to Windows 11. Now, we won't do that for you here at the store. Is that right? We won't do that.
I don't really recommend it. I mean,
I've done it with success.
I suppose we could do it, but we would come with the big disclaimer of Windows 11 might just stop updating. Things might just not work how they're supposed to.
Right. There's no guarantee of no side effects in the future.
No.
I don't know that we would have performed what they referred to as an illegal operation.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that.
I don't think the police will show up, but.
And then there's also models like the T430 ThinkPad. It's probably over 15 years old at this point, and it can just install Windows 11, and I don't really know why.
Is that right?
It just can. There's just nothing you have to do about it. So there are some cases out there where it'll just allow you to install it, but again, it is not supported on the Microsoft website for Windows 11.
Can we talk a little bit about the Apple side of life?
Yeah, that was on my list too right after.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you, I'll let you open that one up.
Well, I would say Apple makes it a little bit easier in some cases because they allow you to go up to the top left and click on that Apple logo, and then you'll see an update button there that you can click on, and it will scan through it and see if you have an update pending or an upgrade, I suppose, in this case. Currently, I think the supported operating systems would be Monterey, Ventura, and Sonoma. So if you're currently running Catalina and you have a 2015 or newer computer, you actually might be able to upgrade to a currently supported operating system, which is recommended because you'll experience less bugs and it'll be more secure as well.
And Doug, do you have anything on that one?
For upgrading on the Mac side, there's a lot of people who have really small hard drives on Mac, so just make sure you have enough storage to run the update. There are also cases where Apple will just remove the previous operating system upgrade options and they'll only give you the latest. So if you can handle the latest, it's best to jump to that before they remove the ability to just do a smooth upgrade. In the event that they remove it from the App Store and you can't do the install of one of the other previous OSs, then you can fresh install from that. We just recommend you use Time Machine, back up your stuff, and then do the install of whichever one your computer can handle. Which again, you can find out by clicking the Apple in the top left-hand corner, and then it'll tell you what model you have there, and you can look that up and what your latest OS you can support.
All right. So what about upgrading the Apple to the latest version of Windows 11?
A lot of them can handle it. A lot of them can. You can install Windows 11 on a lot of Mac computers. I don't know how they feel about that. We don't really offer it as a service, but it can be done. And Mac also, on that note, has a really special feature not everybody knows about, where you can boot externally. So Windows doesn't allow me to just plug in a Windows hard drive through a USB and boot into Windows. The Mac operating system does, and you can even do it with a Windows 11 hard drive as well.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that becomes important for anybody who has storage issues on a Mac. We have done this procedure before where you can just make a fresh install on an external 2 terabyte drive, and then you can boot to that like it's your main drive. So instead of paying Apple's prices for their hard drives, which they charge an arm and a leg for, you can just plug in any hard drive of whatever size and use that as your new hard drive.
Okay. And do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to add, because you kind of brought up dual boot in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Why would somebody benefit from dual booting?
Dual booting, having a hard drive outside and inside?
Not necessarily, even just having maybe 2 partitions. One person has maybe a Linux and a Windows, or a Mac and Windows.
Okay, so yeah, there is a lot of benefits to having multiple different operating systems because there's software that's made for, say, Windows, Linux, and Apple separately that aren't made for the others. But I'd say a big one on the Apple side I see a lot is people who use older software. They can't run that old software anymore, and all the new versions are subscription-based. So they would have a huge benefit on being able to keep their old operating system intact and then plug in an external hard drive and have the newer operating system on that so they have full support.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let me just pull my microphone off. So with Apple upgrading the operating system to the latest version, is that really always necessary? I mean, at what point do we have to? I know it says there's a version available. Maybe your computer's not allowed to upgrade to the latest version. Okay, so you feel like you need to run out there and buy a new Apple product. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
The chances are no, but if it really comes down to the user case. If you have to use a piece of software and that piece of software no longer works until you upgrade, then you're kind of stuck in that boat. And Apple does that a lot, is they won't tell you that once you upgrade, certain things aren't going to work, just as much as they don't tell you if you don't upgrade, some things will stop working.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it comes to cloud attachment, if you're using their cloud, the iCloud, it can have disconnection issues once your operating system gets old enough.
It seems over time, and you'll have to excuse me, we've got this little iPhone thing controlling which camera goes where, and I'm right now I'm the only one who is familiar with that process. I'll make Auren familiar with it too.
Okay.
And that way I don't have to do it on myself. What the hell was I talking about?
That you have to upgrade at some point on the Apple side of things?
Oh, yeah.
Where they try to force you, basically?
I have found over time that it really doesn't matter whether we're talking about Linux, whether we're talking about Windows or Apple. The theme is really the same. Every time you do an upgrade, you risk breaking something. So ideally, you have enough backups of whatever it is you need. You have a fallback plan in place. Maybe the best thing is to make a clone of your hard drive. And if you're not able to do that, we can do it for you. But there are cloning machines that you can buy, and it can be a little bit much for some computers. Getting the hard drive out, cloning it to a new one as a complete fallback plan. But that's one way of doing it.
It depends on how complicated your world is.
Yeah.
If it's really complicated, my recommendation of the clone before you do anything is higher up on the top, because then you won't have to worry about losing anything. If something goes wrong in the upgrade, you can just simply plug in the other hard drive and be back where you were.
Right. And so for my case, I just recently did that going to Windows 11. I'm using Windows 10 right now. My computer said you don't have the TPM module necessary, so I hacked the registry. I installed Windows 11, and I'm happy to say that everything seemed to work swimmingly. I was wonderful. I spent the whole day doing new things with Windows 11, and the machine seemed to run a little bit faster, to be honest with you. But then I had a need to use a virtual machine, which, I use them all the time, and it might be a week down the road for you when you're going to use some program that you haven't used in a week, and all of a sudden then you find out you can't use it because it's not compatible with Windows 11 or with the latest version of Apple or with the latest version of Linux. And now you've got to roll things back.
And that does kind of bring up peripherals. I have a lot of people who upgrade their operating systems and don't know they're making sure they have to go buy a new printer as soon as they upgrade.
So my basic the couple of recommendations that I'd like to make on this is don't be the first to upgrade just because there's an upgrade ever. Unless you like being a cowboy and living on the frontier or cowgirl.
I was going to say guinea pig.
Guinea pig would be,
if you want to be a lab rat, and test it out.
If you're a risk taker and you don't mind the fall, then that, and I fit into that category to some degree. But you're better off to make your decisions based on, is it necessary? Is something going to break currently if I don't, a bank's no longer going to support my browsers because I have this. Has that gotten to that point in time yet? So in other words, is something going to break if I don't? Or is there a feature that's so important to me that I've heard about that I don't have currently that new operating system offers me, and I have to have it? Otherwise, if life is good, if everything's working and you don't know of a reason why, then enjoy your life. Go out and do something social or pleasurable with your family, and instead of getting caught up in that tech rabbit hole.
Yeah. Otherwise, on Apple, they do have Time Machine built in, so I do recommend backing up on Time Machine with the Apple side of things, and then with Windows, they have the System Restore we've gone over before, and you can create a System Restore point, and that can sometimes save you from updates.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Windows 11 will let you roll back the entire install to Windows 10 as long as you do it in, 30 days?
Yeah, there is a time limit on it. I think it's 30 days.
And you can press a button and boom, you're back to what you were, and that's a great feature. Does Apple have such a feature?
No.
They do not.
They do not.
Does Time Machine restore it?
With Time Machine, I believe you have to still fresh install that operating system to move it. And if you run a Time Machine in one operating system, you can't roll it back and put it into an older operating system. So in that case, you would have to make a Time Machine with whatever operating system you want to restore to.
Fun.
Right.
It goes into the future operating system, so if you had one and then you upgraded 2 operating systems into the future, you could put your stuff on the computer that way. It just doesn't go backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And how about buying a computer? A lot of people, we sell refurbished computers here.
Yeah, new and refurbished. Refurbished, we can save people more money because there's a lot of stuff out there, especially on the open box. They can't call it new anymore because it was bought and returned, but a lot of that stuff is cheaper and has the same reliability.
But whether they buy it refurbished here, or they buy it refurbished from a friend or relative or eBay or Amazon or some other place, what's the advice on, it's got Windows 10 on it now, or it's got Windows 11, or it's got Apple, whatever it is. Is there a rule of thumb that they should be thinking about as they buy a new computer?
With buying anything, future-proofing, looking up that model and figuring out if it can handle operating systems that are coming down the road. In the case of Windows 11, that's not been out for more than, I think, like 3 or 4 years. And typically Windows 10 anyway had 10 years of support. So Windows 11 is going to have a long talk for it. And Windows 12 hasn't even been announced yet. But on the Mac side, they do typically have a release of an OS once a year, and computers typically last, I don't know, 3 to 5 operating systems before they start running into issues.
Right. So you say maybe buying something that has at least a couple of operating systems ahead of them?
Yeah. Either, well, for Windows, just the one at the moment. They haven't even announced anything with Windows 12, so at this point you don't really have anything to look up on whether it can handle it. They could, for all I know, require artificial intelligent chips in them, and those aren't even out.
So enjoy the bargain price. Take the Windows 11. You've got a nice machine because...
Yeah, and if you do any research on Linux, Linux is always another choice. Once you reach some technology's end of life cycle with laptops, desktops, you can install Linux and get another, who knows how many years out of it.
That's true.
Because we have a lot of older computers that Linux really brings new life to them and makes them last a lot longer.
Yeah.
And gives them 2024 support.
Auren, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, sure, yeah. I would say, especially going back to Apple, I see a lot of people that get to the point where their computer is running Big Sur or Catalina, and it's, 2014 or just on the edge of losing everything with your support. And I would say if you want to give it a try, if you're going to throw out your computer anyway, there's actually a way you can install Linux on your computer on an Apple machine and see if you only do email and browsing and a little bit of documents and some photos, it might be a great solution for you and save you a lot of money, because a new Apple computer, it's pretty expensive at this point, especially
yeah, it's got
depending.
the Apple tax.
It does. So I would say if it's worth it to you to put a little bit of time into it or do some research and give it a go, we do have a video on our channel that actually covers that very topic.
Yeah, and you can always look up Linux. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. Ubuntu is one of our favorite because it has long-term support. And then aside from that, I'd say for anybody here locally, we do have systems out there in the showroom that have Linux on it, so you can just come check it out and see what the environment looks like.
Okay. All right. What else we got?
On to the next.
All right. So I have a common issue here, or a common question that people run into, and it's my desktop computer keeps shutting off suddenly without warning. What should I do?
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, that can be caused by quite a few things.
Does that happen on Apple as well?
Yeah, for overheating.
Yeah.
Okay.
For overheating, it can happen on the Apple side.
Right.
It's more common on the Windows side. And if I have to say why, it's just a bubble off of that sort of thing, is Apple computers, because it's the same company that makes the hardware and the software, I find that they run into less software issues that cause random shutoffs. Right. You hear more about blue screens of death and those sort of things on the Windows side.
Yeah. Well, I would say on PCs, more like your Dells and HP desktops, you can actually run into overheating. And if you don't keep the system pretty clean of dust and debris, or if you haven't applied thermal paste recently, the CPU can start to get very stressed out with heavy use, especially if you're doing a lot of video editing or gaming regularly and you're not keeping an eye on that. And I actually have a graphic of what a CPU looks like when it's not maintained and doesn't have thermal paste applied. Found in a circle. That is typically that paste keeping it cool, and it acts CPU and your heatsink pulls. And you see that sort of definitely a problem. A Of course, you want to have thing, but
Yeah, and then the CPU paste and CPU paste that come actually apply this themselves.
yeah.
So this should be smooth. This skin across the entirety of that CPU. Really, usually we apply it to all the entire.
Yeah, I usually
CPU.
make it, a film that goes across the whole thing, and I typically can't read anything.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to read
CPU.
the writing, and then you mush that up, and on top of this is going to mount a fan,
Yep.
which grabs the hot air, and actually it's a metal plate at the bottom of the fan, and since metal against metal doesn't transmit the heat in as efficient a way as this paste does, this is a metallic, a silver based or some other metallic, aluminum, what have you, based paste to kind of create that gradient between the two metals. And then the fan will pull it away, and then you mush that up, and on top of this is going to mount a fan,
Yep.
which grabs the hot air, and actually it's a metal plate at the bottom of the fan, and since metal against metal doesn't transmit the heat in as efficient a way as this paste does, this is a metallic, a silver based or some other metallic, aluminum, what have you, based paste to kind of create that gradient between the two metals. And then the fan will pull it away and help it exit the system.
Yep.
And if it's dry like this, that transfer of heat isn't effective. In fact, you might end up with an airspace in here where heat escapes out the side, and this CPU and the motherboard under it will overheat, and your machine will just shut off.
Yeah.
All right.
And also be cautious not to add too much thermal paste,
Yes.
because that can also be a problem.
And then sometimes you can take it off and you can feel the viscosity of the thermal paste, and it can, from heating up and cooling down repeatedly, harden to get to the consistency of a rock. And that'll actually start holding the heat into the CPU. So in other cases, you could have overheating. It could look like you have enough thermal paste. It's just solid as rock.
We know that talking about CPUs is over the top of what a lot of our viewers are really going to know about. So this is just to give you an idea that a quick shut-off like that's the most common thing. It's overheating. Overheating doesn't have to be from CPU paste, right? I mean, it can be from your fans being clogged.
Yep.
And you can take compressed air, and the can type is decent, but it's not as good as I'd like to see somebody use. We use a compressed air gun that's electric that puts a lot more air in the system, and every orifice in your computer, every place you see an exit hole, typically where the fan vents that heat, you're going to get a buildup of dust over time. And if you blow it backwards, you'll see dust come out of other ports in the system, and that can oftentimes be an instant cure.
Highly recommended for shop or garage computers to open them up every couple of years at least and blow all the dust out of there and check the CPU paste.
Yes.
If you flip them over, laptops, you can often see the fans and see the dust circle around the fan, so that's a problem. And what about batteries? I mean, are they ever a reason for that type of you press your computer and you get nothing?
I mean, with that sort of thing, a way you can tell if your battery has a problem in itself is if you see your laptop and your keyboard or your trackpad start to kind of bulge out and it's getting harder and harder to click.
Yeah, and that's for the internal batteries. So any of the batteries that are sealed inside the machine that you can't just pull out of the back of the laptop sort of thing, they typically swell up.
Now, is that Windows as laptops as well as? I know I see that on Apple laptops.
I have seen that on both computers, yeah. So that would go for Apple laptops as well as Windows, Dell, really,
I've seen it on a Chromebook.
anything.
Yeah, anything that has an internal battery has that potential.
Yeah. So if you're noticing it's getting harder and harder to click on things and your battery life is just really poor, that could be a good way to fix it. And I'd actually recommend, if you're having a bloating battery issue, get it fixed sooner rather than later, because it could cause damage to the frame of your computer, and then also you don't want a bloating battery.
I've seen it snap a motherboard before, if not looked after ever.
Yeah.
It will eventually swell up and just start cracking other things inside the machine.
It's powerful.
In the old days, you didn't have bloating batteries. I never heard of the symptom. It's just that newer tech, they make them out of this there's some kind of a fabric outer layer, and
I feel like it's probably to prevent them from bursting into flames, if I had to guess. Some sort of chemical layer that is in there that instead of catching fire and two things mixing that shouldn't, is a neutralizing agent is in there as a film and then starts puffing.
Now, I have had in fact, I've seen this commonly, and when you know what you're doing, you can make it look like a magic show. And hello, Bev. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And also thank to Polly. Polly has a Quad 9, I guess, on a Linux when we were talking about CPUs. What I was going to talk about the last thing on the instant shutoff thing, it's not really a shutoff as much as it's a similar symptom, but your computer won't turn on, and you used it a minute ago or an hour ago or yesterday, or you woke up in the morning, you press the power button and you get absolutely nothing. You may as well have pressed a 2x4, a piece of wood.
And is this on laptops or desktops?
This is just laptops that I'm talking about right now. Though that can happen on another, just laptops. And 9 out of 10 times I have found the reason is there's something about the nature of electricity that causes something to bind electronically in the system, and power delivery is no longer what it was. The power doesn't transfer through your AC adapter and your battery component into your motherboard, and you've got nothing. And they bring it into the store, and so this happened to me one time personally with my laptop, and I brought it into a computer store, 4 decades ago, and or maybe not, probably close to that, and the guy pulled the battery out, put the battery back in, hit the power button, it started right up. It was like a match. It was like I couldn't believe it. I didn't have to spend any money, just a gift. And so when people come in the computer store, sometimes I'll often do that. I'll say, "Oh, you got nothing at all, huh?" And I will unlatch the battery and put it back in, and not let them know that I've done that. And then I'll wave my hands over the top of it a couple of times, and say, okay, let's try it again.
Yeah,
and
I've done it quite a few times. I usually get to use my favorite line is miracle cures are on the house.
Right,
just immediately solve it. But ultimately it can be a battery that's having problems, so it can be a sign of other things that are coming down the road. So I usually recommend looking into it. If it happens repeatedly, then it's something you should probably replace the battery with. Or the charger can also cause power fluctuations as well as old outlets.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, and then, when you have those sort of issues, essentially there is a smart technology in the laptop that refuses power from anywhere until you remove the battery and put it back in, which is easier for some laptops than others.
That is true.
Okay, we have Mac 1 Biz. Hello, is this a 3rd gen Intel Core i5? Still looking for regular browsing and YouTube?
I mean, on Linux, definitely. For a 3rd gen, I don't know if that can handle Windows 10. It might be able to, depending on the other specs of the machine.
I think 3rd gen, I think you're good.
Yeah, but on Linux, for sure, it would have complete full support. And if it's on Windows 10, it'll have support until the end of next year. And then different website owners, they'll decide when they want to upgrade and not support Windows 10 anymore. So as far as what'll stop working once you get to the end of 2025, it's going to be as people release their updates, what stops working.
Right, yeah. I would say, 3rd gen is getting a little bit old, so depending on how websites evolve, it might not be as quick as you might want it to be, but if you don't mind waiting a little bit sometimes, it probably would do fine.
Okay. And then that also makes me think about the T430 again. It's a really old computer. I think the one I have on Windows 11 just for testing environment is a 3rd gen i5. I think it is. So some 3rd gen i5s can handle the upgrade, aren't fully supported, but they can at least get there and are supported at the moment.
But I think in their, whoever Mac this is, their real solution is probably Linux. If you say browsing and YouTube is what your main thing is,
then Linux is
frankly,
at the top.
I think 99% of the humans on the planet need Linux, and that's to do the things that they do, which is well beyond browsing and YouTube, but documents and spreadsheets and creating, media and what. There's so many different solutions that are on Linux.
And it's the closest to virus proof you can get.
Yeah.
So especially for anybody who is afraid on the security side of things of not, wanting to contract a virus of any kind, so Linux can ease some of that fear.
Yeah, and it's free. You go to, just Google Ubuntu. Ubuntu, by the way, there's many flavors of Linux. Our recommendation is going to be Ubuntu, which is, let me see if I can find the right one for all talent.
That's their long-term support.
It's the most used version of Linux worldwide. On all manufacturers, all devices, all products, they're going to try to make sure they're compatible with Ubuntu first before Mint or a variety of the other different types that you'll see out there. So go to Ubuntu's website, download their 22.04, install it, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, and for the people who are leaning on the geeky side and like customization options, it doesn't really get any more customizable than Linux. You can change your graphical user interface, where all the icons are, what everything looks like, what the start menu looks like. So there's a lot more options in Linux than I think any of the other operating systems.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there, practically endless.
Yeah.
And we see Mac This is looking to buy a cheap machine for their little punk, which I'm guessing is their child, and certainly they can fit that description. I don't know if you're in our area or not, but we certainly sell refurbished, and we don't really specialize in the older ones, but we do get them, and so you might give us a call and see if we have
Yeah,
something.
a lot of times on the, speaking of the Apple side again, is I have a lot of customers who do like the older software that they use, and they don't want to jump into the subscription base and pay for the rest of their life for things. So sometimes I will track out older Macs specifically to hold the older operating system.
Okay. Yeah, and go with a T430 if you really want to stick with an i5 3rd gen. I would highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and they're not too expensive nowadays, but because it's not fully supported on Windows 11, there is still the that warning.
Yeah, you won't be able to get to 11, but you'll have 10 for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Linux forever.
And Linux, yeah, for most likely.
Well, probably not forever, but
For
Yeah,
long as you
we
probably
don't want to
need
get caught saying forever. Not forever, but most of the time.
Now, I'm going to reiterate, if there's anybody out there, some people have engaged with us on messages. If there's somebody watching this or listening to this that would like to, that has a question in their own world that has nothing to do with our topic, but you'd like to have the expertise of one of us, drop us a line. We'll be happy to answer that on the fly.
And on the cheap laptops thing, it's not really cheap, but reliability and will save you money in the long run is most of the ThinkPad model laptops. If you're looking on the laptop side, just like I've mentioned, the T430 is like a 20-year-old machine at this point, and it's still working well. Most of the ThinkPad models last a really long time, but they range in between, $300 to $2,000, depending on how much power and what year model you're looking for.
Yep.
Yeah, the ThinkPad is the longest run. We love Dell, we love HP, we love
Well, love is a strong word.
Well, I mean, there's so many there's so many models within a lineup that are wonderful machines. But the Lenovo, the ThinkPad. Specifically, the Lenovo makes a lot of machines, and we won't say the same thing about all the Lenovo's.
And I'd like to put a point on us talking like that, because I always tell customers I am not brand biased towards any of the brands.
Right.
I am model specific on any of my reviews.
Right,
If I
just
like
like
something, it's the model.
It's like a car. Chevy, Chevrolet makes this, that, and the other thing. They all make different versions of whatever it is, and some
The
are
high
better than
end and
others.
the low end.
But the ThinkPads is the longest running model of laptops in the world. And I think they're the longest continuous through the years. The same brand, ThinkPad, with a little red dot in the middle of the keyboard, has been around since, I think, the early 90s or late 80s. And by the way, that little dot in the middle is an alternative mouse for those that don't know out there.
I still don't know anybody who uses
Nobody
it.
ever uses it.
I don't
Yeah,
know
I've seen one person use it once.
Have you?
Oh,
That's
wow.
come into the shop, yeah.
So they're the one.
Yeah,
All right.
that's why it's
One
there.
person.
Yeah, I use it as a technician mouse to see if there's something wrong with the software
Yeah.
of the mouse. If their trackpad isn't working, that's the only time I use it. It's just to make sure the mouse is functioning somewhat inside the machine.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I always tell customers it's the self-destruct button, just to get a reaction.
Yeah.
Oh, don't touch that.
Don't press the red
it's
button.
a giant
whatever you
red
do,
button
right?
in the center.
That was pretty
But
good.
yeah, other than that, I don't know why it was invented that way. I imagine there's probably some sort of joystick function that works with some sort of technology that's in big businesses.
It actually, in the beginning, a little history from somebody older that was there back then, there was no touchpad.
Ah.
The red button was the only thing.
Wow. Okay.
It was their version of what the mouse should be on a laptop, but the general public didn't agree, and so they still liked the one that had a touchpad or something, like that, and so that's the direction they went in.
It'll be interesting to see if that ever becomes vestigial and goes away.
And there were a lot. The Toshiba, there were some other ones that had the center button as well, and so that was a thing for a while.
Yeah, I think I've seen a couple others, like Dell, have one of those buttons.
Dell Latitude, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, fairly
All right,
fairly useless.
we've beaten that one into the grave. What else we?
What else we got? If the desktop has a problem booting up, sometimes on the Miracle Cure side of things, there is a little watch battery that's inside of all the computers, or most of them, and it keeps your BIOS settings saved as well as your time. And so sometimes you can have some problem in the BIOS that's causing it not to start up, and simply removing that battery and turning it on, and then shutting it off and putting the battery back in so it can save the time again, can get the machine up and booted. And another thing is sometimes just wiggling the RAM a little bit. Not even fully.
Wiggle your RAM.
You can remove it
Right.
and put it back in, but I have had many cases where the machine doesn't start,
Right.
and the first thing I do is just wiggle the RAM just
Yeah.
to test it out, and I have had some Miracle Cures on that one as well.
Yeah, but when some of our older customers, if you were to tell them, "Have you tried wiggling your RAM?"
Yeah, I've never done that. I don't suppose anyone would know what that means.
they might not catch on to that one. So yeah, it's again over the head, kind of like the CPU paste. RAM's under the hood. You got to get the keyboard out of there if it's a laptop.
Yeah,
but
no,
a desktop,
I'm just talking on
it's a lot
the
easier.
desktops. On the
Yeah.
desktops, usually there's a side panel that comes off and exposes this stuff, and that's usually how I recommend blowing out all the dust from it instead of just blowing it through the fan vents and trying to get it out. There's usually a side panel you can remove.
Yeah.
And on the RAM, the only reason the RAM wiggling or removing and reseating the RAM works is because there is a bunch of little tiny teeth on the RAM, and they are just sending tiny little electrical signals through all of those teeth. And sometimes there is microscopic burn holes that are literally not making a connection anymore because the RAM has always been in the same spot.
Right. Yeah. They're looking for one. They found a T430 for $100 on eBay.
Again, it's not supported by Windows 11.
But that's okay.
And then there is different
But it
versions.
works.
There is different versions of the T430 that have, I believe, a second-gen processor in it. And there's some of them that I wasn't able to upgrade to Windows 11.
So you want to make sure it's got the third gen. We'll just touch on this eBay versus something you buy at a reputable computer store.
You always take a
something, right?
chance, so make sure it has a 30-day return. Would be my highest advisement if you're out there looking for used or secondhand equipment.
You can get a hard drive when you buy one from wherever, just so you know going in. You get their hard drive. If there's any problems on that drive that causes the machine to perform poorly over time, and it may be that it's 6 months away from failing or 3 months away from failing, and you just don't know some of those things when you buy a machine. There'll be no warranty on it. $100 is not a lot of money spent, so if you can get it for that,
I'd recommend upgrade the hard drive anyway. Put an SSD in it. If it has a conventional drive, definitely recommend putting an SSD
because that's
in
what
it.
we'll do. Any computer that we decide, okay, this is a candidate, whether we've gotten it off lease from a major corporation that recycles their machines from time to time, or a customer decided against spending whatever the money is to get things done, and we ended up with the machine on a recycle basis, we will invest the money. First thing we'll spend on is putting a brand new hard drive in there so that we know you're good for years down the road, you know, because that's like the weakest link in the chain is the hard drive.
It's the part that works, you know, it works the whole time you're using your machine. So it's 24/7. It's storing and moving data, and so it's used a lot more than a lot of the other components. Right? And all that plays into the cost and efficiency of getting an older system. So, you know, maybe take a look at the computers that came out after the T430. The ThinkPads have been really reliable, and they do typically release one every year, one every couple of years.
And again, and when you get a system here, I have to reinforce this.
Yeah.
We already look at the memory and we say, okay, this machine needs to have 8 gigs of memory. This machine needs a new hard drive. We wipe out all the software. We install a brand new copy of Windows. We install the Office products, the LibreOffice products, and so you know you're getting something reputable.
And then we warranty it on top of that. So that's not something you get on the refurbished side.
There's a price premium for that. You don't buy it for the same price you buy somebody's whatever it is on eBay, but you get that in return.
Yeah. We are right here. Our address, we're in Anacortes, Washington, just so you are aware.
Yeah.
He asked, where are you guys located?
Top corner, 2002 Commercial Avenue, Anacortes, Washington, 98221.
Yep.
And
glad to be serving here for 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years, long time. I've been in the business since the 90s. And drop us an email from our website or drop us something in the message service. If you want to hear something from a subject, it might be about websites, it might be about business needs, whatever it may be, drop us a line and we'll add that to our piece of paper here so we start talking about it.
And also on the refurbished side, we went over heating issues. One of the things we'll commonly do, test the heating, open it up, replace the CPU paste before we put it out there on the shelf, just so, because we're covering it with our warranty, make sure everybody else is covered with that knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. And we'll see you the next time. We expect to do a couple of these a week. So if you subscribe, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you'll have a front row seat for these in the future. And Facebook, make sure you follow us.
All right. Have a good rest of the Tuesday.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.